Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to RangerStop and Pop. We have a very special guest with us right now. She is one of the queens of voiceovers. You have probably heard her voice with Legends of Zelda, with Dragon Ball, with you have a long list of different characters that you have voiced over. So we would like to welcome Elizabeth Maxwell to the show. For those that couldn't make Ranger Stop and Pop, this is allowing you from Ranger Stop and Pop to get to know a little bit of each of the guests that we are having this weekend here at the show. So welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being a part of so many of our lives with doing so many characters iconic that a lot of people know. And, I mean, gosh, it's like you can't turn your head without seeing someone that you have voiced over. So, what is it like navigating within the voiceover community?
Well, I love it. It's really fun. I feel like I won the lottery. I get to do what I love for a living, and I can't imagine like a better job, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Mhm.
It's pretty physically demanding, which people don't necessarily realize. And it's a lot of hustle. We are constantly auditioning. It's definitely a numbers game. If I audition for 50 projects in a week and I book one, like that's a good week.
Okay.
But honestly, like I said, it's all I've ever wanted to do
Yeah.
with my life, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that all of the characters you have been a voiceover actor for have been these really strong characters.
Yeah.
From being on RWBY with being Winter, you are on Legends of Zelda, and that you are also in My Hero Academia as Midnight. I mean, the list goes on. So, I mean, when you're going through that process, do you get to say, I want to audition to voiceover for this character, or do they have you just read lines and say, Elizabeth will be best for Midnight?
Well, most roles I do audition for.
Okay.
Every once in a while, I'll get handed something, but more often than not, it's the audition process. And as far as like how much say we get in our character, it does kind of depend on the property. With anime dubbing, it's a little bit more restrictive because the property already exists. There's already been a Japanese seiyuu who's done a performance. So we usually don't get to like go too far outside the box with what has come before. But with prelay animation, with RWBY, for instance, depending on how collaborative the writers and the directors like to be, we do get a little bit more say and kind of like, I don't think Winter would say it like that. I think that she would say it this way, or, oh, I had this great idea for a line. Like, what do you guys think?
Okay.
So.
Awesome.
And also, I know that you do video game voicing too. So I was wondering, like, do you have any games you actually play where you were dubbing the voices?
So I do play a lot of games, but in terms of, well, let's see, I'm not very far into Persona 5 yet. I find it gives me so much anxiety because I'm a completionist. And so I'm always like, I only have so many hours in a day. Who do I befriend? What do I study? Like, what do I focus on? I'm much farther in Breath of the Wild, and I'm probably logged most hours right now in Yakuza Like a Dragon. I love that game so much. Like, I love the humor in it. I think that the other actors in it are just phenomenal and so on point. So that's what I've been focusing on the most right now.
That's awesome. And also, when it comes to like acting and voice acting, because I know you do both. Do you actually prefer voice acting more, or do you see yourself pursuing like more live action type stuff as well?
I mean, I never really want to have to decide between the two if I can avoid it. I love both. I get very different things out of both. But I will say, one thing that I love about voiceover is that you aren't limited by your physical appearance. And it's really refreshing because with on-camera work, there's just, if you don't have the right hair color or you're not quite the right age range, you know, it doesn't matter how good an actor you are. You can just a lot more lighting.
Right.
And with voiceover, I don't feel that frustration quite as much. So.
So because you had such a long career in voiceovers, I was wondering, like, what would you say was the kind of breakthrough moment where you kind of had your foot in the door with voiceovers? You know, like, what was that one role where you're like, oh, now I'm in the game?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, sometimes I feel like there's still moments where you're like, will I work again? Will I ever be relevant again? But I will say, for me, a pretty big personal moment for me was when I went to my first convention and saw somebody cosplaying the character that I voiced.
Mhm.
That was pretty, like, that made me feel pretty special. And especially because I used to do just kind of amateur cosplay, like, before I started voice acting.
Mhm.
And I just remember thinking, like, when somebody cosplays my character, I'll know that I've made it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I mean, how have you, out of all the roles you have played, which has been the most iconic or your favorite character that you have either voice acted as or performed as an actress?
Oh, that's so hard to say. I feel like it's asking a mom to choose who her favorite child is. They're all really special to me for different reasons. I love them all, but I guess some that kind of stick out, Urbosa from Breath of the Wild, both just because it was such a crazy honor to get to be involved in the franchise. And then also I love that character. I adore her, and I think she'd be my favorite champion even if I didn't voice her. Also, it's maybe a little bit less well known, but there's another Rooster Teeth show that I did called it's called Camp. My character's name is Nikki. It's a show about kids, but it's not for kids. It's very adult. And that was one of the first times that I got to be a lead character in a comedy. And it was very much outside of like what I usually get to do. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite projects that I've ever gotten to work on. And I just, the writers on that show are so crazy talented. Like, I still laugh when I watch the episodes.
Awesome. Now, of course, we've heard some stories from some of the guests here and some of the guests that have been on our show also outside of RangerStop and Pop. You know, sometimes y'all have to do the craziest things for your roles, whether in audition or, you know, or in the actual performance that you have to cock-a-doo like a rooster or stuff. Have you ever had to do something really crazy that you kind of look at the role like, really?
You know, I'm trying to think if there have been any crazy examples of that. I mean, sometimes I just can't believe that that when I'm voicing Midnight for My Hero Academia, I'm like, I really say that out loud. You want me to say that out loud? Okay. I've also gotten to do some pretty weird animals in anime.
Yes.
I remember Kyle Phillips was, I don't honestly remember what the anime was anymore, but he literally like was walking into every single booth going like, can you do a dolphin? Can you do a dolphin? And he couldn't find anybody who could voice a dolphin. And I do a pretty good dolphin.
Oh, okay.
So I got to play like 3 different dolphins in an anime once.
Nice. Have you ever, 'cause, you know, you see someone like Chris Sabat and others that have to play multiple characters in one show.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're in the same scene. Have you ever had to do that? And then how is that in the booth to go from one character to another if you've had to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of something that tended to happen a bit more in the kind of genesis of anime dubbing.
Okay.
It's not as common these days to be multiple characters, one property. And usually if you do, they'll actually really try and avoid casting you as characters that do interact with each other.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I've played multiple characters, like small characters in like one game. I don't know if I've ever talked to myself, but I will say it can be a little jarring to like go from, you know, one anime to another, like right after each other.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I've kind of done as an actor to help me like shift headspace is I'll come up with like one line that I feel like it's either like my favorite line that the character has said thus far, or something that I feel like really encompasses like their worldview. And that'll be kind of like my hook, my like shortcut into that character's brain. And I find if I just like say it a couple times in the booth, it helps me kind of like immediately pop into that character.
You have one last question for us?
Yeah. Well, you don't have to tell us if you're, signed to anything as far as like upcoming projects, but do you have anything exciting to share with, just what you may be working on in the future?
Ooh, that's a good question.
There's no pressure. You don't have to answer.
No, I know. It's like I always have to think about this really hard because so much of what we do work on is like NDA, and I'm always like, is there anything that I can talk about? I don't think there is anything I can talk about right now.
That means it's gonna be good.
Yeah, there are several projects that I'm working on that I'm very excited about, but all I can say is stay tuned on social media.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
Well, of course, everybody, we're coming to the end of the time, and we want to be very respectful to Elizabeth's time because she's got fans waiting for her. So for those that have not made it out to RangerStop and Pop, they still have tickets at the door that you can get tickets for today and tomorrow. And of course, even though you can't make it, keep tuned in so you can get your tickets for RangerStop and Pop for 2022. So you can't miss out from meeting Elizabeth and any of the other guests that you got to see over this weekend. So Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
and everybody,
you.
tune in for our next guest that we will have starting tomorrow. And of course, be on the lookout. You'll get a little sneak peek that this evening, Alan Z will be performing at the VIP dinner for our guests and our VIPs. So our guests get to hear a little bit of his singing and rapping talent. So definitely be tuned in for that. So if you're a VIP, you're going to have a treat this evening. So we get forward to seeing you and enjoy your RangerStop and Pop, everybody. Bye, everyone.
Mighty Morphin when I'm touring, so put me on the poster. Trying to take over the planet like Rita Repulsa. Gold skin, yellow ranger, ain't no need for comparing. So I represent for Trinium like Nakia and Karen. Assault machine, the Megazord, the metaphors. To settle scores like taking doors or mega fours. Competitors, they wanna call me Alpha Pride, but they can't cause their fans are boxed like Alpha 5. Like War Z, I ain't the type to provoke and pull. Other MCs, comic relief like Broken Soul. Carry tradition like it was made from ancient scrolls. A kid with attitude like I came from Angel Grove. The dinosaur inside, my spirit you're sure to find. It's morphin' time, transform when I perform a rhyme. About that action, so when I get on, I'ma pop. And I'ma do my own stunts like Johnny, I'm Bosch. What? Mighty Morphin when I'm touring, so put me on the poster. Trying to take over the planet like Rita Repulsa. Gold skin, yellow ranger, ain't no need for comparing. So I represent for training like Nohea and Karen. Assault machine, the Megazord, the metaphors. To settle scores like taking doors, the Mega Fours. Competitors, you wanna call me out for pride, but they can't cause their fans are boxed like Alpha 5. Like War Z, I ain't the type to provoke and pull. Other MCs, comic relief like Broken Soul. Carry tradition like it was made from ancient scrolls. A kid with attitude like I came from Angel Grove. The dinosaur inside, my spirit you're sure to find. It's morphin' time, transform when I perform a rhyme. About that action, so when I get on, I'ma pop. And I'ma do my own stunts like Johnny, I'm Bosch. What?